Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Grandmaster Shaman, and today we are going to be doing a 2-for episode. So, whether or not this comes out on Saturday or Sunday morning, whatever it might be, um, I'm filming this right afterwards, and I'm hoping it gets out tonight, but we will see. It's going to depend a lot on how long the live stream goes, because that will air first, obviously. I'll be doing it live. So we're going to move on now to number 70 on our list and go up through 61. And we're going to start with this amazing show at number 70. So I'm just going to throw this out here, okay? Don't kill me. But this show is great. This show is absolutely amazing. The music in it is terrific. I believe, every single song that is not only played in the show, but that is played by the bands from the video game that is based on, even though the video game isn't available here in the United States. Even of the bands that didn't even show up in the anime. So it's needless to say, I enjoyed it a lot. Not to mention Shingon Crimsons is the best band ever. And they're my favorite right now. Falling Rose is definitely my all-time favorite song right at this moment. In fact, it has been for about 2 years since I watched the show the first time. I've watched it 3 times now, twice dubbed, once subbed, and this show is fantastic. I know it's a cutesy show. But Shingon Crimsons definitely makes up for a lot of that, and it does have a dub, so if you don't have an excuse not to watch it, just saying. This is one of those really cool. I really do like shows about music, especially if they keep the songs in Japanese. Looking at you out there. If they keep the songs in Japanese, it's definitely really, really good. I like Pretty Krista in this show, Plasmagica, Shingon Crimsons. There even was a special appearance by Ninja Knot and Zure Zure Aru yeah. See, it's hard to say, but you gotta say it quickly. It's Zure Zure Aru Marutsui Mugenon, I think. I probably butchered it, but I love their songs as well.
We're in danger of losing all the music to her darkness.
Rock.
We must do what only we can do.
It's really, really cool. Not to mention,
then our only choice is to return to the past. But
this show is just terrific. Not to mention, BVL. Of course, you can't forget BVL from season 2. Definitely. Oh man, the hardcore rock music. I'm telling you, you should just watch this show, especially if you like Japanese music. It is absolutely terrific. If you have not watched it yet, you should. Definitely a great show. And basically, every show in the top 70, I'm going to be like, you should absolutely, this is what you need to do. Go do it right now. So we're going to move on to number 69, which I'm going to just repeat the same thing. You should definitely go watch this right now. No, but seriously, this show is great, but it's number 69 for a reason. No, not that reason, you dummies. Get out of here. God. No, but this show, I really... Okay, I've read the manga. like 3 times. Yui is one of my top 3 favorite characters of all time. Spoiler alert if I ever make the top 100 characters list. She's probably at number 3 behind 2 other characters, which I mean, if you know me, you know them already, but you'll find that out if you don't. But they leave her arc out. And that's what gets me. You see, the first 2 seasons are great. They go in chronological order. You get everything. But then, bam, it's season 3, the Goddesses arc. You skip over about 7-8 conquests. And you're just automatically on season 3. Not to mention, I don't think we'll ever get a season 4. Ever. And I've watched this show, again, 3 times. Twice dubbed, once subbed. Actually, 1.5 times dubbed and 1.5 times subbed. Because season 3 was subbed when I watched it the first time. And then I watched it dubbed, and then I watched it subbed. Because subbed is better than dubbed. Just so you know. But, this is a really interesting story about this guy, Katsuragi, who is forced into a contract because he claims to be the god of gaming. Well, dating sims, more accurately, and he claims to be, God. He helps people out when they're stuck on dating sims, and he accidentally signs a contract with the demon to capture loose souls trapped in people's hearts. And if he doesn't do it, he gets his head lopped off. So he uses his dating sim power to make these girls fall in love with him. And what's really interesting, though, is that after they have fallen in love with him, they forget everything. That is, of course, until the Goddesses arc, which you'll have to watch the show to find out exactly how that works. But if you want me to be honest, I would recommend watching the anime and then reading the manga. If you don't really like reading the manga, if you like the show, do it anyway. Seriously, do it anyway. Because this show is fantastic, but they leave out like 7 conquests. They leave out the one with him. This isn't really a spoiler because it's not in the anime, so, But they leave out a conquest with him and a middle school 3rd year who's into swimming. And they leave out the karate girl's sister who, is a celebrity model who's older than him. And Yui, of course, freaking Yui, the best character in the entire freaking show, gets left out as well. So I dropped it hella hardcore, because if they had the Yui arc, it would probably be at number 48 or something. But don't have the Yui arc, don't get that high. Period. Moving on now to number 68. So Chivalry of a Failed Knight is one that I've also actually watched relatively recently, both dubbed and subbed, as I do with most shows to get a better perspective. Spoiler alert, subbed is better. But dub isn't bad, don't get me wrong. But sub is better. Chivalry of a Failed Knight is a really interesting show about this guy who is kind of considered a failure because of his inability to wield magic at the same level of other people. Kind of similar to how the Irregular at Magic High School was, at least in terms of the whole magic uses, but he is hardcore trained in the art of combat, and he fights magic wielders using just skill, and it is absolutely amazing. Not to mention a very interesting and not as crazy love development with the main female lead. you obviously have these things going on with, you know, the main character and the female lead. It starts off really bad because he sees her in her underwear on accident. And that was stupid. I almost turned off the show at episode 1 when that happened. But then they had this badass as shit duel. And it was all worth it. It was great. Not to mention the love development actually really works out well. You know, sure, at first she's really skeptical. She doesn't like the guy. But over the course of the show, you can kind of actually see this little bit of realism in the way that she falls in love with him. And not to mention, you know, the romance kind of succeeds, which you don't really get. I would love to see more from this show. I doubt we'll get it. But it doesn't exactly... It does leave off with a kind of shitty ending because there's still more to the story, but not in such a bad place where I would be super pissed about missing out on a second season. But I definitely like the characters enough to want one. Which, by the way, leads me to Alice. My favorite character in Chivalry of a Failed Knight. She is like my idol. You know, just today I was reading a little bit in an article about trans people in Japan and how they're not very common. You see them a lot in media, but they're not really common. And I scroll down to the comments that people made on it, and they're all pretty gruesome. Definitely doesn't make me feel super great about, you know, how I am and how I just feel, you know. But Alice is an inspiration to me because, sure, you know, there's these funny traps in anime, like Hideyoshi and stuff. But Alice is a true trans girl who doesn't pass in anime. You know, that is amazing to me. And I have a lot of respect for Alice in the way that she presents herself and how she is. And I really, really like it. It's fantastic. She's a great character, and it's great because, you know, sure, they act surprised when they first know her, but they don't really express that kind of bad reaction that you would get a lot of times here in the United States, especially with the homicide rates as high as they are, not to mention the suicide rates at over 60%. So there's that. But on a different note, we're going to move on to number 67. So Asterisk War and Chivalry of a Failed Knight are kind of, I don't want to say similar, but they've got this connection. And Asterisk War is 2 seasons, and it is really good, especially if you like tournament arcs. Second season tournament arc is amazing, and if you love fight scenes, there you go. I doubt we'll get a 3rd season. There is a little bit more that I'd like to see, but again, like after 2 seasons, it's really good, and there's a lot there. Man, all the stuff that's going on and the connection he has with the female leads are really great, and honestly, it's just a fantastic show that I really, really enjoy. And I definitely think that you guys should check it out, especially if you like, you know, action-filled anime. Just like Chivalry of a Failed Knight, the main character is kind of that weaker character that gets overlooked and then turns out to be a badass. But unlike Chivalry of a Failed Knight, he doesn't duel someone at the speed of sound. So there's that. I mean, that's kind of a negative, but I liked a lot of the characters more. Not to mention, the tournament arc is fantastic. You know, no speed of sound, but still fantastic, and there's a lot more substance there than Chivalry of a Failed Knight. I believe Asterisk War has 36. I think it's a 12-episode first season and 24 second season, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head. You guys could obviously check it out wherever you stream your shows, but definitely something to keep in mind, a show that you should definitely go watch. It also is dubbed just like Chivalry of a Failed Knight, so if that's your problem, well, you don't have that excuse anymore. Interestingly enough, 4 shows, 4 dubs, and we're going to keep going with the dubs with number 66. So we got our first little movie here, if I remember correctly, which I probably don't, but The Boy and the Beast. And just so you know, all of those shows except... Okay, so all of the shows made by this creator are in my top, 105. Girl Who Leapt Through Time is a little bit lower. There isn't as much there that I'd like. But Boy and the Beast... the one that came out a couple years ago. This one's really good. It's about this boy who kind of gets lost in the city. His parents passed away, and he's kind of all on his own, and he wanders down this alley because there was a mystery person there, and he winds up in this world of anthropomorphic animals. But unlike, these other shows, they're legitimate humanoid animals. They're animals, but they have they're bipedal. And it's a really interesting story. The person that takes him in is fighting to try and become the next basically king of the animal world there, and the boy is trying to become his successor, and so he's trained how to fight, and from there, it shows a little bit of the discrimination that he gets from other people for being human, and it's definitely an interesting story about these two and their development, and of course the ending is terrific. I'm not really going to spoil anything, as I usually don't, but it's something that you should definitely check out. It's also a movie. It is dubbed and subbed, so you should definitely check that out if you haven't already. It's a fantastic show. Moving on now to number 65. This one I wish was a lot higher, but we'll never get a season 3, and that is a hard pill to swallow. Season 2 was pretty decent, had a lot of politics in it, I want to say. But the story of Holo and the main character and their cute little love relationship is absolutely to die for, and Holo is one of the best characters you'll find in anime. Absolutely terrific. I feel like a lot of people have watched this show by now, and probably are like, well, where's season 3? It's such a good show. Well, I happen to have read the light novels because I liked it. That's what you do. You immediately go and buy or search for the light novels that the show is based off of. And now I really want a season 3 because I want to see the ending in anime form so bad. Especially after the journey that you when you watch an anime, you kind of take the journey with them. And just to see that journey end the way that it did in the light novel would be amazing. But I don't think we'll ever get to see that, unfortunately. It's something that we just gotta accept, and it really sucks, but what can you do? I definitely think that you guys should watch it if you haven't already, but if you're one of those people that are like, well, if the show doesn't end, there's no reason to watch it, well, I don't know what to tell you. Moving on now to number 64. So this is a show that I think often gets overlooked. It's another show that does not have a dub, so the first one of our little video package here. But it's kind of like Madoka Magica. Of course, after Madoka Magica came out and it flipped the magical girl genre on its head, you had other shows like Yuki Yuna and, of course, Mahou Shoujo Ikusai Kaiku, which did the same thing. And they also did the whole flipping the genre on its head type of thing. And I think that this one did it, honestly, extremely well. So, magical girls in this universe are basically chosen by an app. You get this app and you become a magical girl, and you use that to score points by saving people. But there's a twist, obviously. The person who scores the lowest points is stripped of their magical girl status. Forcibly. Painfully. And ending in death. So, obviously you have this sudden realization, and it's obviously after they've gotten a few people to join this, you know, people who are magical girls, you know, go and help out people, and they score points based on the amount of people that they helped, and whoever has the most points is the winner. But things kind of break down after the person who is running the thing, the little black and white toy, I want to say it looks like a rabbit, screws the rules and kind of makes it into a killing game. So it gets pretty intense, a lot of crazy shit happens, but I want to take another note of one of the characters in it. Unfortunately, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But it's you'll see it if you watch the show. But the main character, who is called Snow White when she's in her magical girl form, her really close friend that works in that same district as a magical girl, and that person I just want to give a shout out to as a really great character to watch out for. I'm not going to spoil anything, but their backstory is really impressive and interesting, to say the least. Without further ado, moving on to number 63. So Black Bullet is a show that I also think should get a little bit more than the one season that we got. It's a pretty intense and at times extremely dark show about these humans that are living in a walled-off city. And this city was attacked by these giant beings called Gastrea that basically killed off a boatload of humanity. And now people are living in these fortified walls made of this substance that keeps the creatures at bay. They aren't really able to cross the barrier. But because of their nature, they surround the place. If any of those walls break or crumble, the Gastrea invade the city and pretty much everybody probably dies. Anyone who is infected by a Gastrea will eventually become one as well. So the main character is one of the cleansers. Any creature that happens to cross the border, or people who end up contracting this disease, which can happen in several ways, he basically goes and tries to stop these Gastrea from invading from the inside out. And he has a partner, Enju, who I have right here. Give me a second. We got Enju over here. Our body pillow was like $6, so I took it, even though she's 10. Don't think less of me, please. It's not that kind of way. But Enju is one of the infected, I guess. But she's a child of the Gastrea, more accurately. So it's a pregnant woman contracts this disease, which she'll eventually turn into a Gastrea and die from, but she gives birth to a child before she dies from the disease or turns into a Gastrea, and thus these cursed children are born. All about 10 years old or younger, because the incident that wiped out humanity was 10 years ago at this point. And because of that, they are looked down upon. They are infected with the Gastrea disease, yet they're still alive and they look like human, but they have incredible strength and powers given to them by the Gastrea, and they are used to help fight the Gastrea, albeit mostly forcefully. Most cursed children are basically captured and enslaved, basically forcibly trained to become killing machines, while some end up developing personalities like Enju, others just turn into these horrible, angry creatures that just kill everything. But ultimately, it's a very good show, in my opinion, as you kind of see the development between the main character and these cursed children, as well as society's view on the cursed children. You know, one of the characters even poured concrete into her eyes so that she couldn't see anymore because her eyes were bright red, which was a symbol of the Gastrea virus within her. And she did it just so that people, you know, wouldn't take her as, you know, one of the infected, or that she could get around without being attacked, or that she hated the side of herself that was infected. And, you know, it definitely speaks to me on that level, you know, to hate a part of yourself that you want so badly to disappear, but it won't go away no matter how much you try. You know, you're legitimately born with this curse, basically. Definitely hits me right at home. I definitely feel it. But moving on now to number 62. So this is a twofer here. They're technically part of the same series, so I'm going to throw them in together. A Certain Scientific Railgun and A Certain Magical Index. What's amazing is we're going to get A Certain Magical Index Season 3. That's been confirmed, and I'm really, really excited after seeing the movie and, of course, the first 2 seasons, and reading the light novel. I'm really excited to see what happens next actually play out in anime form, considering, again, that I've read the light novel. It's really, really good. I definitely recommend you go check it out. Railgun and Index are going to be interesting. I actually watched the first 2 seasons of Railgun first. I had no idea Magical Index even existed. I just saw A Certain Scientific Railgun, and she was shooting freaking electricity out of her hand, and I was like, sold! And so I watched the show, obviously, and I liked it a lot more than I liked Index, just because, I guess the more girly stuff. Not to mention I love Railgun's character. And, of course, like the most common freaking English voice actor of all time. Which, yes, I did watch all 4 seasons dubbed and the movie. I haven't watched it subbed yet. I might do that at some point. I don't know. It's weird. I just thought about it. I haven't watched it subbed yet. That's kind of weird. But something definitely that I am going to keep in mind. But it's definitely something that you guys should watch. They're on the same timeline, of course. Railgun and Index show parts that aren't exactly in the other ones. Like, they have these episodes, and I believe Index starts first, chronologically. I believe Railgun starts, like, right here, and then Index starts, like, where this pen is. Which looks backwards to you, but to me, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, so you kind of get what I mean on that front. I'd recommend watching Index first. I didn't, and it doesn't really like stop you from enjoying the other one. It's just that one was actually not only made first, but chronologically is first. So that one would be the one I would recommend. But if you like, you know, the cutesy girly stuff and you want to watch that first, go for that one. Obviously, there's a lot more than just the cutesy girly stuff, but there's a bunch of fighting in both. It's just Toma and Index. I mean, Toma's a guy, and there's a lot more drama and intense, I don't know, boyish stuff. Is that how that works? I don't know. And then Railgun, obviously the main character is Railgun, who is a girl, and her 3 best friends are all girls. So it's more cutesy girly. And of course there's Kuroko, who's the best character ever. You know, obviously I of course love the lesbian ones because obvious reasons. Kuroko is by far the best character in the series. So definitely go check that out. And we're going to move on to the final one of this episode, another dubbed show at number 61. So Samurai Champloo is kind of an older show, actually, from a little bit, well, I mean, I'm going to use older loosely. It's like, what, 8 years ago or something? Not even that long ago. But it's a really interesting show that has some really good, it has a really good soundtrack. Not to mention the story itself is pretty cool. As these 3 characters, 2 guys and a girl, basically go around fighting bad guys to eventually defeat the main bad guy that they're going after. All the characters are really cool and interesting. And not to mention, I just love the chick. She's terrific. But I definitely recommend you guys checking that one out. It's got kind of a cool samurai-ish vibe with some older style animation that actually looks really clean and crisp. It's got some really cool moments and cool events going on in it. Some of them don't exactly make sense. I'm thinking of one particular episode. If you've watched it, you probably know what I'm talking about. But overall, a really good show, and I definitely recommend that you guys watch it. So without further ado, I'm going to conclude this episode at number 61, and we're going to move on to 60 through 51 in the next episode. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you want to see what my next 10 are going to be, as well as comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of this list so far. We're almost halfway there. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. So stay tuned for more.